United Methodism is a connectional denomination. We believe that when we rely on one another and partner with one another, we can make an impact significantly greater than any one local church can on its own. And as we all certainly know, ministry requires funding. Connectional giving is one of those places where God's call to generosity and the power of our connection meet to witness to the love of Jesus Christ for a hurting world and transform lives and communities in his name. Thank you, everybody, for listening. My name is Dan Wunderlich. I'm a United Methodist pastor, and our guest today is Linda Bruner. Linda is the Manager of Connectional Giving at United Methodist Communications, and she's here today to share with us about connectional giving and the many resources they have to help create a culture of generosity in your church. Linda, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you having me today. I'm glad to come on and share some time with you today.
Awesome. Well, let's begin by having you share a bit about yourself and what you do for United Methodist Communications.
Absolutely. I am a lifelong United Methodist. My dad was a United Methodist preacher for 40 years, so I'm a preacher's kid. And his dad was a Nazarene preacher, so religion has been a huge part of my upbringing. I currently attend Connell Memorial United Methodist Church in Goodlettsville, where I'm heavily involved in my own church. And I've worked for two other United Methodist agencies prior to me joining MyCom about a year ago. I am very fortunate to be part of a team that works so closely with many other agencies and partnerships, as well as the finding out the ministry that they provide for the churches. My goal for Connectional Giving team since I've joined is to increase awareness for engagement and with the apportionment funds, church-wide special Sundays, and the mission of the advance. My belief is that we need to remind the church of all the incredible things that we do through the connection.
Well, my guess is that there are three levels of familiarity with connectional giving among United Methodists. We either know all about it, we go to or lead a church that just does a few or a handful of the special Sundays, or we don't have a clue what any of it is. And some of our listeners may even be worried that this is about to be a podcast all about apportionments. So, Linda, why don't you give us a picture of what connectional giving is actually all about?
Right. Most people are in those three camps when it comes to connectional giving. So let's start simple. Connection, by definition, means relationship. And I believe the word relationship defines our denominational connection beautifully. Some of us can be connected through a cause or through work, but when you're in a relationship, like a family connection, it becomes personal. At the core of our church work, we minister to our communities. And that work we're able to accomplish through our churches for our communities. That's personal. It's our home, and that includes our neighbors, and that's our personal space. When anything is personal, it becomes powerful. The power of the United Methodist Connection works because we take care of a small portion of what our churches do within our circle. And we use those gifts to expand the same work in other communities. Sometimes that community may be 3 miles down the road, and then sometimes the work is halfway around the world.
That's a really incredible vision for a local church, especially if you're a church that hasn't been involved in international missions, really in a way you already have through connectional giving and through all of these opportunities. And actually, Linda, I have to admit, I did grab a line for the intro from your website, umcgiving.org, because it's just so good. So I want to give credit now. I don't want to get flagged for plagiarism or anything on this podcast. It was where I said that we witness to the love of Jesus Christ for a hurting world and transform lives and communities in his name. Before we jump into the practical parts of our discussions, can you share with us a bit about the impact that connectional giving has around the world?
Yes, I think I can answer that through some simple facts and figures. Hopefully, I can quickly explain that the small portion I spoke of earlier collected from each church is shared and it's multiplied. So when we combine our giving, that's how it's multiplied. For example, United Methodist gave more than 187 million to advanced projects in the last 4 years. We annually give over 1.5 million in Africa University scholarships. Consistently, we've donated for the past 4 years over 500,000 to Native American Ministry Sunday. We've raised over 800 million to support clergy ordination since 1968. We have collected over 3 million in the last 4 years for World Communion Sunday scholarships. We award an average of 5.5 million to United Methodist students in scholarships and 9.6 million in 2018 to 11 Black colleges through a Black College Fund, which By the way, United Methodist supports the largest number of Black colleges in the United States. And that's just the monetary gifts. As United Methodist, we also help to train over 125,000 volunteers through our Gifts on Human Relations Day. And we touched 425,000 lives in more than 30 countries through some recent Encore work. All of this work is completed for ministry in communities where there are United Methodist churches.
Well, that is absolutely inspiring. I'm a member of the Florida Conference, and the theme for our annual conference this year is On Mission Together. It's a theme that Bishop Ken Carter has been drilling into us for this last year, and that's a theme that I think can apply to our entire denomination, not just the Florida Conference. We are on mission together around the world, making an impact, something we can be proud of. And it seems like a key part of this impact revolves around this idea of synergy. We are stronger together than we are individually or as individual churches. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have specific projects that our churches support or even start and run ourselves locally or internationally. But can you talk about how connectional giving allows our denomination to do ministry that is sustainable, strategic, and long term?
Absolutely. The work we do follows the examples Jesus gave us. We are invested in each other not only to feed and clothe and love each other, but also to teach each other. The ministry we accomplish together is not just focusing on the immediate need, but the long term results. One perfect example is the ministry we accomplish through education. We have 13 giving opportunities as a global church, and out of those 13, 6 are specifically for scholarships to further education. We know that by investing in education, we also expand our circle through the knowledge of being used to create new solutions or to fix immediate needs or alternative solutions for future needs. In our missions, we have people creating new water and sanitation systems and improving on ways to garden and feed entire communities. Most of those who receive these scholarships return and give back to their community in a multitude of ways. Education is one of those gifts that no one can ever take away, and it can always be shared and used to benefit others. That's one small example that I can think of how we're creating a ministry that can be sustainable, strategic, and long term.
And obviously, the wealth of resources across the connection are what allow us to find the right people to be doing the right jobs. We might lack a certain expertise in our congregation, and honestly, all churches go through life cycles, and they go through the economies of various regions of the country go through life cycles, and so doing this work through the denomination allows it to remain somewhat consistent. Have you seen that? I mean, you have only been with Giving for the last year, but a lot of the numbers you gave us range back even through the last recession and even back to the 60s, some of those numbers. And so there really is a power in doing this through the denomination.
Yes, I do see consistency, and I do see that we have continued to be very committed to the cause. And sometimes that's just loyalty, sometimes that's obedience, sometimes some of the churches they have that passion and that drive just continues. And we are very blessed to have such a connected church that finds the value in mission and they don't get lost in just, well, this is what I've got to do.
Mm. So there are three primary categories of connectional giving, and one that we're probably most familiar with are the special Sundays, and there are 6 of them throughout the year. Can you share with us a bit about these Sundays and what resources are available to the churches for promotion and education around these Sundays?
I can. And actually, surprisingly, there are 16. Most of us recognize the 6, but in total, there are 16 designated Sundays throughout the year that the United Methodist Church celebrates annually. And we recognize these specific ministries to support general church causes. We intentionally give dates for the calendar to make it clear the calling of the church as the people of God and to give persons the opportunity to contribute offerings to special programs. We refer to that as second mile giving. Special Sundays offerings will provide scholarships for worthy students. They help those struggling with homelessness or oppression, support social justice initiatives, and more. Each special Sunday falls into 3 different categories, similar to what you were saying: church-wide special Sundays with offerings, special Sundays for annual conferences with offerings, and special Sundays with no offering. The 6 Sundays you most recognize are Human Relations Day, Encore Sunday, which we once called One Great Arrow Sharing, Native American Ministries, Peace with Justice Sunday, World Communion Sunday, and United Methodist Student Day. These are the Sundays that have designated days and offerings used for the local and global needs of the ministries. We have multiple resources for each of these Sundays available for download on umcgiving.org. We call these resources the Pastor and Leaders Kit, and each would contain 18 resources, which is an increase of 11 new resources from previous years. We have found that we kind of stepped away from a few of the foundational pieces, and we've gone back to those things that will now have an opportunity to touch every part of the worship service. We've also added things for conversation beyond the worship for all age levels, that's children, youth, and adults, and a way to promote each of these Sundays through your church and your community. We also have 5 special Sundays that are observed on dates that annual conferences determine. These offerings are used for ministries within that annual conference. Those Sundays are Christian Education Sunday, Golden Cross Sunday, Rural Life Sunday, Disability Awareness Sunday, and Volunteers in Mission Awareness Sunday. And then finally, we have 5 special Sundays designated to focus attention on specific aspects of the church's ministry, and they have no offerings taken. Those Sundays are Heritage Sunday, Laity Sunday, Organ and Tissue Donor Sunday, Men's Ministry Sunday, and Women's Ministry Sunday. While we may not have resources dedicated to the last 10 mentioned, we do have plans to create those resources for churches to use in the future. And I'm sure after that long list, you can see United Methodists are involved in every aspect of their community. Life and living as a Christian and being involved in what we can do and what we actually end up really doing for our communities is seen through these 16 Sundays.
Yeah, I have to say, I am a little embarrassed. I thought that I was a fairly well-connected United Methodist. I thought I kept up with things like this, and there are so many of those Sundays that I've never even heard of. And so we're appreciative of the work that you're doing to get the word out. And I think those resources are really great. The one that struck my attention was the conversation starters, because I've known in the past my churches have used the posters and the special envelopes, but that doesn't always. That just lets people know that there's an opportunity to give. It doesn't necessarily always generate the interest or inspire and inform about the need. Can you talk a bit about these conversation guides?
I can. So with children's resources, we have a lot of activities. They're not going to sit and answer a lot of questions that you're going to have. So they have a lot of activities that can really, for example, like Peace with Justice. They'll talk about simple situations that children can understand to talk about fairness and being unfair and how you can be kind. For youth, we have a combination of some serious questions that are happening in their life, as well as some activities and some games. And then for adults, it's about 5 to 8 questions that we put out there for you to answer, not really giving them any guidance, because as adults, we just hope the conversation can happen. But for children and youth, we give some tips and some tools to kind of guide the children in a certain way to use that United Methodist theology of how we view social justice and how we view caring for the homeless and how our ministry to the poor. We're excited about that because we know that churches just really don't have a lot of time to sit down and prepare. And even if you have a Sunday school lesson planned, this could take 5, 10, or if you want to use the whole Sunday school class time, you can. We really just want to not only give people resources to be able to start the conversation, but possibly something that they could use themselves, which is why we created a podcast. It's like 3 to 5 minutes for adults that they can just sit and listen. Again, since you don't have time, you can listen to it anywhere. So these resources, we're trying to do what, like you said earlier, there's a lot of Sundays that people are just not aware of, and they've almost forgotten where the ministry came from. So with these additional resources to start those conversations, we're hoping that people will look back and go, wow, we really do a lot of things together. And the church really, really does care about me and my community.
Well, and I have to say, from a marketing perspective, if you can get the kids and the youth excited about something, their parents are going to get excited about it, or at least want to give the kids a way to use that excitement, especially if it's for something that's based around generosity or service. So I think that's really the second category of connectional giving includes 7 specific funds that cover everything from Africa University to ministerial education to world service and even some administration costs for our denomination. And this is where apportionments start to come into the picture. For folks who are new to our denomination, the concept of apportionments may initially seem like dues or almost like a franchise fee, but it really is giving towards ministry. I used to work in college campus ministry, and so I know the power of apportionment giving. But can you share with our audience a bit about this type of giving?
Right. Many people do kind of explain to each other. I've even heard it in my circles, or they may even understand apportionment, that it feels like a fee that you would pay to be part of a club. And like you've said before, we really need to have this referred to as ministries that we give towards and not really fees. So I'd like to really do something very simple and almost kind of weird with the word apportionment to explain it. So if we say the word really slow, you'll find out what I believe is the intentional meaning behind apportionment. A, portion, meant. That is exactly what we're trying to express. A portion of our giving that is meant for ministry and mission.
Hmm.
People hear the word fees and they automatically say, oh, great, there's a huge fee per person. But in reality, it's not. If you break it down per $1, every $1 you give in your offering, 85 cents of that dollar will stay within your local church to help with the ministries of your local church. 7 cents goes to your jurisdiction, your annual conference, and your district. 6 cents goes towards benevolent giving, and 2 cents goes towards apportionments. That doesn't sound like much, but when you add your 2 cents and my 2 cents and so on and so forth, that's where you begin to see how our connection gets multiplied. It is a living example of the fish and loaves miracle we find in the Bible. That miracle, you and I both know, made absolutely no sense to anybody
Right.
who was standing there and saw this small kid gave us 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. It's the same theology. So if you put 2 pennies in the palm of your hand, that's not going to buy anything. But when you put your collective 2 cents and mine, just like we were talking about before, we can change the world. Dan, in 2018, collectively, we gave almost 200 million in ministries across the globe. That took everyone to accomplish that. And that's a lot of 2 cents.
Yeah.
As a denomination, we voted 7 specific funds as our apportion funds that we would support as a global church. And they include Africa University Fund, Black College Fund, Episcopal Fund, General Administration Fund, Ministerial Education Fund, Interdenominational Cooperation Fund, and the World Service Fund. These funds support efforts such as education, social justice, global health, new places for worship, Christian leadership, and administration expenses that sustain the ministry of our church.
Well, finally, we have a sort of catch-all category that includes things like special appeals for UMCOR and a need for disaster relief, and the advance. And the advance in particular is really cool. You can search the database of projects that are dispersed all around the world, and they're organized into a variety of categories. And one of the cool things about the advance is that 100% of the giving through the advance goes to the project. There's no administrative fee taken off the top. And this seems to me like a really awesome resource for pastors and local churches. So let's say you've got people in your congregation who are passionate about a certain issue or a certain place in the world, or maybe you've got a sermon or a sermon series that highlights a particular issue or need. You can more than likely find a project through the advance that would give people a specific way to get involved in that area of the world or with that issue. Is that right?
That is right. And just to clarify, a lot of people hear the advance and some people know what it is, just like we were talking about earlier. Some people just know the titles and some don't. But just so everyone knows, the advance is an accountable designated giving arm of the United Methodist Church and is passionate about empowering our local congregations to give generously and passionately to all the causes they believe in. The advance makes sure, like you said, that 100% of every donation reaches the intended ministry or mission, no matter where it is in the world. You and your congregation can choose which ministry or program to support with donations, with fundraisers, with special offerings, special events, and all kinds of things. The General Board of Global Ministries receives all of your donations. They process those gifts and they make them available for distribution to the project director or area financial person of your selected ministry. Again, it's what you select. So to simplify, the advance is an agency that vets every project, which I think is important to people. They want to know that their projects are vetted. and that they're a safe and secure place so that we can ensure any money that's given will safely reach those who need, all 100% of it. So
Yeah.
the advance makes it easy to get engaged to your church, to support all the ministries you're excited about, all the ministries you know that the church are as a whole excited supporting. And we see churches take up causes and they'll support it for a year for a summer project. They'll take it on as a vacation Bible school project and lots of other ways. We recently worked with global ministry staff to create resources we call mission kits to explain some of those individual projects, because once you go on the site and there's so much to offer and so much to choose from, it can be a little overwhelming. So these kits offer an easy to follow campaign built around a specific topic. If you choose water, if you choose disaster relief, and it includes all the tools necessary to create an event. You can spread the word, you can generate all kinds of engagement, and hopefully inspire action. Currently, we have completed 4 of those mission kits, which includes Cambodia, which a lot of people don't even know we're in Cambodia doing mission, water, hunger, and disaster relief. The next kit scheduled to release at the end of the summer will explore migration. So the strategy of these kits is to produce a mission kit for each program area that the Advance has, and those are 15 programs. You can find these resources on UMC Giving under our resources button, or you can visit Global Ministries website at umcmission.org. I suggest you go and check out their website because they've recently updated it, and you can look around and see what projects they have and what ministry you might want to support.
That is awesome. And Linda, we've spent about 20 minutes setting up and giving out information. And this was vitally important because if we, the communicators, and many of us are local pastors doing the job of church marketing and communication, if we don't know what we're talking about, then our marketing's not going to be great. So hopefully everyone stuck around and has learned everything. But of course, this is a marketing and communications podcast. So you've mentioned resources throughout, even some specific things, but can you give us a picture of all the various things that are available to us to help communicate to our churches and promote generosity? There are even some things that are not special Sunday related or specific project related, but you all even have a new kit around generosity in general. Can you talk a bit about these resources?
I can. We have been very busy producing new resources for the local church. We know that people don't have time, like I said before, so we're trying our best to create resources that you can easily put into use and to spread the word of the gospel. So, like I said before, you can find all these resources on umcgiving.org and then go to the resources button. But some of our newest resources are, like you said, the Generosity Kit and a campaign we're calling Did You Know? The Generosity Kit is created to help you talk to your congregation about the connection of the United Methodist and the impact we're making in the world. These resources will help you to approach the subject of giving and generosity with your congregation. An example of some of those resources are following very much what we had talked about with the Pastor and Leaders Kit earlier, but they include things like a blank bulletin for you to customize, sermon starters, some offering slides, social media assets, infographics, pre-written newsletter articles, and lots more to just make it simple. We offer a variety in the generosity pack. So we give you 3 themes that you can choose from, and those are perfect for your stewardship campaigns whenever you do them throughout the year. And like we've talked before, there's quite a few Sundays that people are unaware of and quite a few funds that people are unaware of. So when I came on, I thought, let's do a Did You Know campaign. This is just a simple it's as simple as the name, Did You Know? So it's going to be a series of ads that you'll see around that will say, Did you know? And it'll have a simple fact about a fund or about a special Sunday, just to engage people. And sometimes when you see something you're very interested in, no, I didn't know that about my United Methodist Church. So this is actually based off of a survey that we did recently that made it clear that everybody's kind of forgotten about some of the things that we do and the connection that we have. So this campaign is completely intended to build that awareness back up, to remind people the value of our connection with simple Did You Know facts. So we'll introduce information, we'll remind people about the giving opportunities, we'll offer some details about the funds, and we'll give you links that are very simple to lead you to learn more or to ultimately lead you to hopefully donate. Over the course of the year and maybe in the next few years, you'll find some ads featured in your normal United Methodist Communication channels, and you may find one in a magazine or somewhere that surprise you. So Most importantly, we want everybody to know that resources that we create here for connectional giving are free. We've created them for download, and you can find them on our site. But we've also got a handful of them that are printed, like the United Methodist Handbook, which is a great resource that leaders use to explain a lot of our beliefs and the theology of how we give and the structure of our church. And we actually took that a step further and made a member digest. So it's a smaller size, but it also uses easy to understand language because as United Methodists, sometimes we get lost in our acronyms and we get lost in
That's true.
our the words that we use to explain our church because we're used to it. So we kind of made it more simple to understand so that you can hand that to a brand new member or somebody who is a visitor. And you can find those resources at umcgiving.outreach.com. And I hope probably the message that I would hope that everybody would hear from this podcast, and again, I thank you for giving me the time, is together we can do more. And together we are doing more good in the world, more than most people realize. And I hope that and encourage that you find out for yourself all the ministries that we're accomplishing. Don't just take my word for it. Go dig deep. Go find out. Ask your pastor. Go online. Read some of the stories at News and see how we're really affecting the world and that we are doing more together that's good.
Awesome. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing all about this really important work.
Thank you, Dan.
And now, listeners, we want to hear from you. How do you talk about generosity? How is your church making an impact for the kingdom both at home and around the world? Email us at podcast@umcom.org, and we just might share your story on a future episode. And you can, of course, use that email, podcast@umcom.org, to send us any feedback or topic suggestions you have for the show. We always love hearing from you. Finally, if you found this podcast to be helpful and you'd like to make sure other church communicators like yourself find this resource, the two biggest things you can do are share this episode with your friends and colleagues and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or whatever service you're using to listen to us right now. Thanks again for listening to the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast.